Welcome, everyone. Just a little bit of information about what we're doing today. It's 3D collage, and when we work in CAD, we started off in all Fab Labs using Rhino. Rhino is a CAD system, and it works on surfaces. You create surfaces, and then we can extrude them into solids, and it's kind of based around surfaces. There are other CAD systems out there that are designed around solids. SolidWorks is one of them. So there's all sorts of different types of CAD systems. And when we save our model to go to a 3D printer, we generally save them as mesh files. But there are also CAD systems out there that are designed to work with those mesh files. And the difference is it's ideal industry standard to work in animation, for instance, and games design in mesh systems, mesh CAD systems. So there's a lot of functionality there that we don't have when we save our models in, say, Fusion 360 or Rhino and so on. Although Fusion 360 is getting more and more mesh tools. It's a little bit boring there, sorry. I'm just going to crack on. I'm going to present my screen. And the lovely thing about this is we don't have to have a great deal of CAD skill to be able to do this, because mesh files we can download from Thingiverse or any online open source library of files, or we can take 3D scans of objects and they'll be mesh files as well. And we can kind of use something like Meshmixer, which is the system we're using today, to edit those files and to manipulate them. So I'm actually going to go on to, hopefully you can see me okay at the moment. You can see my screen?
Yeah, we can. Thanks, Ian.
Good. I'm going to go on to Thingiverse, just do a search on Thingiverse. And Thingiverse is a library of files that people have put online. And there's all sorts in there. There's 2D and 3D. And I'm just going to do a search. And I'm choosing an animal, and I have to say in advance, I've done this once before, so I'm going to choose an elephant. And you can just put anything in here, and there will be a three-dimensional model that someone's made, but be very careful, because let's just have a look for this elephant. Be very careful. Some of these files are scans, and they're huge. And what you have to do is kind of edit them and bring the mesh size down and so on to make them work. So if you find that it crashes your computer, just ignore it and go to another one and bring another one in, and you'll probably find that one might be smaller. And there's my elephant down here. It's upside down, but I'm just going to click on this picture of an elephant there. It will then take me to that file. And you can see on the top right here, download all files. It's completely free. And it comes under Creative Commons. I think we'll probably have some information about it when we download it. But it's important that we don't just sell these things, print and sell, because we don't have that the license to do that. Somebody's put this on Thingiverse for us to use, but not for us to actually make money from. However, if you change it beyond recognition, then I suppose that becomes yours. If you put enough, I think it's more than something like 5%, you change something, you can use. So I'm going to click download all files, and I'll get a little zip file at the bottom in a second, I hope. There it is, starting to appear, and all I'm going to do is wait for that. And as I say, we have to be very, very careful that we don't bring in something too big, and it could be problematic. I'm going to drag it onto my desktop there. I'm going to minus that, and here's my zip file. If I open that up, I've got lots of information. There's README there. Somebody's put some information that might be of benefit when you come to 3D print it. There's a license information here. I'm just going to open up. And it just says created by Thingiverse, user is licensed under CC. That's Creative Commons. And basically, it just means you can't make money from it, really. But you can actually use it. I'm going to go to Files. And in there should be an actual build file, a model file. And there it is, elephant. And all I'm going to do is drag that onto my desktop. Okay, and it says I've already done it. So I'm going to skip it because it's already on my desktop, because I did it earlier. So where is it? There it is over here. So I just wanted to show you how easy it is just to take a file, and there are thousands upon thousands of files, and not just Thingiverse, but there's other kind of open source places that you can bring in your models. You can design your own models, of course, and you can certainly do 3D scans and bring in your 3D scans in the same way. So at that point, I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to open the free software Meshmixer. So I'm going to go and just double click on that. Meshmixer has been, as I say, extremely reliable, but today it may be a little bit glitchy. I'm not quite sure why, but I would imagine they've done a bit of work on it. And I think it's also it's owned by the same people who run Fusion 360. And what Fusion 360 does, it adds more and more functionality within that kind of larger CAD system. I suspect what's going to happen is that Meshmixer one day will disappear, and that functionality will be within Fusion 360. So I'm just going to have a look at this, and of course the first thing we're going to do, it's so easy, is go to import and import my design. But before I do that, I just want to show you the interface and how it works. And what they've got really handily is a little model here, Import Bunny. It's something that's already been created for you to play with. And I always say that it's rather like playing with clay rather than with CAD models, which tend to be lines and dragging that line into a plane and extruding. It's kind of nuts and bolts CAD. This is a little bit more, I can right click and turn. And in the same way as Fusion, we've got this navigation box up here, but I don't really like using a navigation box. So the right click and turn, I'm on a PC, by the way, I can use my mouse wheel there to scroll in and out. And this is our kind of test thing here. Now, I just want to show you something. I'm going to put a hole in this. And to do that, I need to select. There's a little select thing up here. There's a little arrow. So I'm going to click on it. And notice there's a kind of circle that's appeared here. Now, these are sculpture tools. We can actually draw out and push in using this tool. We can make that bigger and smaller. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And you can see it's now a larger kind of circle. Or I can make it smaller. I'm going to make a smaller one. And I just want to kind of, as I'm kind of going, can you see it's highlighting where I'm left clicking and moving around? Now, once I've done that, I'm just going to press delete on my my keyboard, and we'll just have a closer look at that. And as I move around, you can see there we have a hole that we've just put in there. I'm going to click clear selection there, and I'm going to select again, but a smaller, click select a smaller kind of circle now. That's too small, so let's just make it a little bit bigger. There you go. Now, if I just kind of click once, can you see that's a triangle? We'll go to next and click the next one. There's another triangle there. And in that way, we can actually make up, and I can drag this, by the way, all the way around here. But just to prove that this model is made of triangles, and some models, you can see there's not much detail on this, so the triangles are quite big. Some models are so complicated that triangles, there are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands actually of triangles within it. What we can also do, now that we've actually drawn around that, I think, is go to Edit at the top of this box, and it says Erase and Fill. So what it's going to do is erase what I've just kind of drawn there and fill it in completely. I'm going to left click on Erase and Fill, and there it is. It's patched it again. But that was just a demonstration on the way that this model is created. It's created from triangles. And when we actually save whatever we design in Fusion or Rhino to go to a 3D printer, as I say, it saves it as an STL file or an OBJ file. Now, those are mesh files. So it will take your model and put lots of triangles in there. And a curvature, of course, can be made out of triangles a lot easier than something like a flat plane. Now, we have sculpture tools in this as well. And I just wanted to show you this before we carry on. Just going to accept. And it's important we remember to accept what we've just been doing, and I'll clear selection there, and now we've got that kind of smoother part there where we filled. I'm going to make a mess of this now. I'm going to go to the next one from select is sculpt, And there are sculpture tools here. And the first one, if we go to brushes here, we've got an inflate, we've got a drag, we've got all sorts of different things. We've got a flatten there as well. I'm going to go to inflate, and I'm just going to make up my strength and my size of. You see the size of the kind of tool getting bigger as I'm making that bigger again. So we can actually make the size huge and inflate just by touching it. I'm left clicking, by the way, and we're inflating that area. I'm going to Control Z out of that. Hopefully it should come back down again. And this time I'm going to turn the strength right up and do exactly the same thing. Can you see it's a lot quicker, that inflation? And we can draw out as well. And so what we're doing here is we're creating, and we can inflate from that, and we can inflate again, and so on. Creating kind of form, but in a much more fluid kind of manner than we would in any other kind of system. I'm actually going to come off that and see if we can Control Z out. And I think I'm kind of stuck there. And this is the kind of glitch I'm talking about. It won't go back beyond there. There you go, we've gone back there. Right, so let's show another kind of tool in our brushes. There's a flatten there, isn't there? So let's flatten one point. And this kind of circular tool, I can flatten from the front here. You can see it puts a flat, or I can just move around and it kind of visually goes around the outside, and I can flatten at that point as well. So we've got all sorts of sculpt tools that we can use within this. And it is like playing with clay, pushing and pulling and so on. And so that means that what we can do, of course, is we can take something that we've designed in CAD, or take something from Thingiverse, and we can change it beyond recognition. I'm now going to remove the rabbit's head, which is the first kind of tool, most important tool that we're going to use today. I'm going to go to select again, and I can select using the ball, but I can also, at the top here, we've got the choice between a brush and a lasso. If I click on that, I should now have what's called a lasso. And if I left click and drag, we've got a line. And I'm just going to keep clicking and move across and go straight across here, back up again. And that should select the head of the bunny rabbit. And of course, this is why I don't like the navigation box. I went up there and changed it, and it started to move and change around. I think if I Control Z, I might go back to that selection. I'll right click and turn now to show. Now that I've selected it, I'm going to use that erase and fill tool that we showed you earlier when we made the hole. I'm going to go to edit at the top here, and of course it kind of reads like a book. This, it knows what you want to do. The first thing at the top here is edit, and then across it is erase and fill. I'm going to left click on that, and we've erased and filled it. But what I want to point out as well, we've got this bulge here, and we've got a bulge kind of tool that you can bring in and bring out. This is a sealed model, by the way, at the moment. It's something that can be 3D printed. If we kind of go too far and make those edges really kind of sharp, you'll probably find it might not be a watertight model. So I probably tend to have a little bit of a bulge like so, and then press accept and clear that selection. And what we've got now is a headless rabbit. But of course, now we can put a different head on there, which is what we're going to do in a second. Of course, we've got a lump there, and if we want to get rid of that, I'll simply go to my sculpture tools there, go to our brushes, and where it says inflate, instead of inflate, I'm actually going to reduce the size there, reduce the strength slightly, and I'm going to press shift. And what it does is the opposite. Instead of inflating, it's actually reducing. And there's also, I think if we look at the brushes, we've also got a flatten there and the smooth. So I'm going to flatten it first. So we've got a flat, and it's a little bit kind of obvious there. Maybe make my tool a little bit bigger. There you go. We've got a bit of a flat there. Now I want to kind of smooth that over. So I'm going to go and change from that tool to smooth. And it says robust smooth there. And it's really nice. This you can just kind of move around and it will smooth the whole thing over. And as you can see, we've just smoothed that model. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get rid of my rabbit. And I'm not quite sure. I think I might have to. I've not done this before. Normally, I would select and delete. But what I'm going to do is just get rid of this. I won't save it. I'm just going to open up Meshmixer from scratch. Because normally what happens when you bring a model in is you'll get some information next to it. And we're going to do that right now. We're going to import our elephant. So I'm just going to hit import. Look on the desktop for what we've just downloaded, which is an elephant. And open. And as you can see, our elephant is upside down. That's not a problem. And as we turn, there we go. What I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to move my elephant. Now, in CAD, certainly in Rhino, there's a function called transform, and that means change. And I want to change this, and this uses the same terminology, actually. I'm looking for the means to change my design. Now, looking at the tools I've got on the left-hand side, this is select, the first one. This mesh mix is actually standard shapes. I'll just show you. I'll just left-click on it, and you can see there's all these shapes you can just select from and start from scratch, really. So I'm going to ignore that. The next one down is select, that we've already seen. They're all our sculpture tools next. I'm going to ignore the stamp, and the next one down is edit. So I'm going to click on edit because I'm changing, and in there I'm looking for transform, and there it is, the third one down, transform. So I'm going to click on that as our transform, and it's given me some arrows, and it's given me a curve. So that arrow I can probably move up and down, and then the red curve I can grab. I'm just left clicking and dragging, by the way, and I can bring that round. So our elephant is now sitting quite nicely. And of course, we've got other ones here so we can move different ways. I really like this. I like the fact that we can kind of move these things around quite quickly because it just seems so much more intuitive than most CAD systems. We've also got a scale in here. We've got a scale in one dimension. You might have to go, and there you can see it stretching. Again, quite useful that, actually. I'll show you how later on. Goes back to our elephant there. And we've also got the center box, which is white, I think. And I think if we click that, we can make our elephant bigger and smaller, like so. Okay, so I'm gonna, same as everything else, we have to click accept on this drop down menu here, and now we've got that. Please, by the way, if you want to see anything again, just shout out and Sophie will yell. You are still there, I take it, because I can't tell.
Yeah, we're still here. Thanks, Ian.
Excellent. Okay, so now we've got our elephant. I'm going to remove the head of our elephant, and I'm going to attempt to bring in an eagle, chop the body off the eagle, and then pop an eagle's head on. We'll give it wings as well while we're at it. Now, this is a bit trivial, I know, but I personally feel that if we can do this kind of thing, the ability to to scan objects in terms of sculpture, we've now got this idea of three-dimensional collage, but very, very in fact, ultra realistic objects if we use 3D scanning and so on. So let's remove the head, and to do that I'm going to kind of move it around so I can see where the ears are there, and I'm going to scroll in a little bit. Now this is where it might get a bit glitchy. I'm actually going to go to select, change from the brush to the lasso, and I'm going to start up on the outside here, and I'm going to draw some lines, and I'm going to go try and get between the ears there and straight across. Might be a little bit too far there, and then back out. And there you go. And what I've done now is I've selected all of the head there, and I'm just going to have a look at that and to see that looks about right to me. Okay, so Let's go to edit, and we know that from there we've got the erase and fill that we've just used. I'm going to left click on that, and there's our headless elephant with the bulge, which I think I might leave like that. I'm just going to reduce it a little bit, perhaps to about there, because if I'm going to put an eagle head on it, I don't want it to kind of stick too much out. So I've got the ability to slide back slightly, and I think something like that should be ideal. So if I accept that, okay, and then clear the selection, you can see we've got this. Now I'm going to have a look at this just from kind of experience. I know sometimes there can be little glitches which you can pick up visually, and I can see one there. There's a little hole there, and the trick here, I think, is just quickly go to the sculpt tools, go to the brushes, and go to that robust smooth here. Not too strong, and certainly not as big as that. I can reduce the scale of that and just touch it up, and you can see it disappears, and it will actually smooth everything. The crease goes completely if you've got that set, and it's very intuitive. You can set the size of your tool and the intensity of the strength of what it is you're doing, and it really does give you that complete control. Let's just kind of run quickly along here, and you can see I'm just controlling that kind of smoothness. And again, at the bottom here, it does two things really. It makes it smoother and also gets rid of some of those faults. Incidentally, you may find, if you can kind of zoom right in, faults on the model itself. These faults, if you do find any, are tiny, and they're generally repaired by the software for the 3D printer as you take it, but that looks fine to me. Okay, what I'm going to do now is, this is where it'll start to lag, is I'm going to bring in a different model, again from Thingiverse. It's actually an eagle that somebody's possibly scanned rather than created in CAD. So what I'm going to do is go up to File and Import. Now, this is interesting. It's asking you whether you want to append or replace. Well, we want to append. We want to bring it in and leave this one on site as well, rather than replace, because it'll just open the eagle one. So I'm actually going to go to append here, so it knows we're going to add it. And from a desktop, I'm going to look for my eagle, and there it is. Open that up. It'll take a bit of time to open, I would think. And I'm really hoping it does open. Oh dear, it's much larger than the rest. Yeah, I'm going to just click yes and see what happens. It's because the file is huge. It's a very, very big file. There we go. Now this is lagging. You can see it's lagging. Now here we've got this little bit of information here, this box, and it's showing me that at the moment the eagle is live and the elephant is switched off. And you can see that by the elephant being in shadow and the eagle being kind of with the detail there. Also, if we switch, we've got the elephant live now. I'm going to go back to the eagle. What I want to do now is separate the head from the body. I've tried to do it in the same way, and it just crashed my PC. So I'm going to use a different way of cutting this in half. I'm going to use what's called a plane cut. And it's the same as Fusion 360. If you want to cut a model, you can introduce a plane and cut it through that. I think that might be the easier method. So I'm just going to give myself a little bit more kind of a view there. And I'm going to do exactly that. Now, again, I'm probably going to use the editing tool and look for this plane cut within it. Looking at these tools on the left-hand side, it's not that one, of course. And I always say it's like going in a supermarket. You just look for the one that's going to contain what you need. And there it is, edit. We're going to edit our model. Click on that, and we're looking for, and there it is, plane cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down. So I'm going to hit plane cut. Just left click on that. And again, it's lagging. It's really slow. And the plane it's given me is right through the center. And that's fine, because we know we've got this little tool that we can turn around. And again, it's really dragging. So I just took my time, just moved it and then waited for it to catch up. And now we've got this blue arrow here that I can kind of move up. And unfortunately, it's not coming along with me. It's not actually in real time. So I'm having to move it and then wait for the software to catch up. Now that didn't happen until just recently. And I do suspect that certain functionality is not quite as good as it was. But there are other mesh free software out there that we can always use, and we are looking at alternatives as well, which will be just as easy to use as this, I'm sure. I'm going to move that up a little bit more and have a look, and I can see there's this little bit extra here, so I just want to go past that point, and there we go. We just got the head sticking on the top there, and I think that will do me. Now, just a quick kind of explanation of what's happening at the moment. At the moment, where I've put my plane, everything above is remaining solid. Everything below is going to be deleted. And if we look at the little drop down box here, plane cut, it says cut type, cut and discard half. We could actually choose to keep both sides. And I'm hoping this won't crash, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it to cut and discard half, and then I'm going to press accept and wait, and hopefully, fingers crossed that it doesn't crash, and that's it, it's done. That's great. We just have a quick look now, and you can see our model is still as solid. It's not been cut in the same way as this one, but it really doesn't matter because I'm going to introduce this into this model here. And of course, the way we do that is through that really simple transform tool, because we know we can transform this. We can move it, we can turn it, and we can scale it up and down. We can even squish it if we want to. So we should have everything we need to be able to place it just where we want it. At the moment, the head is live, let's say, and the body is kind of in shadow. So what I'm going to do is go to edit, and is it edit? Transform, that's it. It's the third one down, transform. Left click on that. And now we've got the ability to move our head side to side. We can also use our right click, and I can rotate the head down. You can see what's coming, can't you? It's quite a simple idea that we can scale up through the box in the middle there. I think I can move that up. Let's bring it straight down here and kind of bring it out slightly. Move around, and I can see it needs to be a little bit bigger perhaps, and I can slide. What I want really is the feathers to actually merge onto the body, and I think we could go a bit bigger as well. So let's go to the box in the middle there and just take that out slightly, and then we can move around to suit. So as you can see, I've got real kind of ability to change from that side. Let's check it on the other side, and it's a little bit one-sided there, so just going to drag that over so it's kind of central there. It's actually not easy to move around this. I'm having to kind of pan slightly and then right click and turn, and I'm kind of pleased with that. I think that looks okay. Incidentally, if we wish, we can squish the head just by pressing that box there, and we can just stretch in one dimension only if we wish. But I think we had something that wasn't far out actually to start with. I think I'm quite pleased with that. So I'm going to press accept, left click on accept, and I've now put my eagle head onto my elephant. Let's kind of scroll down. Now, I just want to point out this box here. Of course, we've got two files. We've got the eagle file at the moment live, and we can select that, and we've got the elephant file live. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press Shift and click the eagle as well. Now everything has been selected. And of course, what happens is we have a dialog box opens in the top corner there. And I'm just looking at it and it says duplicate at the top, transform, align, create pivot, and the next one down is combine. And that's exactly what I want to do. I want to combine these two separate files into one file. So I'm going to go to combine and left click. And now I can see that in my browser here, my box, there's only one file. It says Eagle STL. As we move around, we can see now, and this is a watertight three-dimensional model that we can take to our 3D printer, and we'll do just that in a while. And before I do that, I want to bring something else in. I've got some wings that I brought in from Thingiverse again. Let's just have a quick look at Thingiverse again. I think I can bring that in there and close that down now, and I'll just do a search for wings. I did actually bring in eagles and all sorts with the wings as well, but the files were so big it was just crashing all the time. So I was just wondering if I just press wings there and did a search, if we could just find a set of wings that's already been cut. And there were. I did find them. I'm not quite sure where now. So, but I could troll through this, and you can see how many things there are. But it's really worth just trawling through Thingiverse and just put whatever you'd like in there. But I can assure you, as you go through, there are more and more things to search there. And there was just this pair of wings that I found, which I downloaded earlier. It's a bit Blue Peter, isn't it? Here's one I downloaded earlier. So I'm just going to go to File and Import. Again, we're going to go to Append. And from a desktop now, I'm going to have that. And there's the wings there that I've downloaded onto my desktop. I'll open that up. And there they are. They're quite small. So what we can do, of course, the wings are now live and everything else is in shadow. What we've got to do is go to Edit, and we can go now to Transform and just turn them around and move them up. Just going to move them away from everything at the moment so I can see what's happening here. And I can see this is the point where they're going to be attached. So I'm just going to whisk them around. And I can kind of look at that now and say, well, okay, I think I could probably make them bigger. So again, using the same tools as we had earlier, I'm going to take them away from the body there. And look, if, by the way, I had a real problem before because this enable snapping was turned on. And so when I was trying to kind of get it in position, it was snapping. And I couldn't get it exactly where I wanted it. So if you find when you're using this that it's kind of moving in kind of, regulated spacings, just click that enable snapping off and you've got a much more smooth kind of ability to place it exactly where you want. Can move around now. And again, we could even make that bigger, because I'm looking at those wings and think if you want to 3D print them, they're very, very thin to 3D print. So it might be a good idea to make it a bit bigger. And as we do that, it makes them thicker again. And as I'm looking at it now, we can move them backwards slightly. Maybe just tip them slightly, so that the feather is kind of working with the shape of the body. Okay, and then just move that across slightly to there, pan out a little bit, and we'll have a look what we got there. Okay, I'm not that happy with them, to be honest. Maybe I'm just going to see visually, if I do that, that just looks a bit more substantial for me. Just a tiny bit up there. Now, once we're happy with that, of course, we know we can accept our transform. We can now select from wings, press Shift, select the eagle as well, so we're all kind of selected, and simply go to Combine. And now we have the eagle STL as one file, which can now be sent to our 3D printer. Just think those wings are a little bit thin to be 3D printed. So the model, you'll have to think about your scale of your model before you actually decide to send it to a printer. Because if they're too thin, the 3D printer may not actually see that. But I think it'd be a good idea to put this in Cura now and just have a quick look to see what the 3D printer actually makes of it. And any of you who've been on one of our earlier courses would know that when we export out of Fusion 360, we'll open Cura, which is the CAD CAM element. So CAD is our design, CAM is our machine. Our machine is a 3D printer, and in the middle is a bit of software that accepts our design and translates it into the information that the machine requires. Now, again, I've got a slight problem here, so I might save this and close it down. I didn't really want to close Meshmixer, but it is taking time opening. So what I think we'll do now, here we go. That's our software. Okay, let's go back to Meshmixer now, and I need to export my model to go into the 3D printer. And what we tend to do is we choose STL or OBJ from Fusion 360. STL is the most standard format. Meshmixer prefers OBJ, I think. So what I'm going to do is go down the bottom here, and round down the bottom there it says Export. So I'm going to left click on the word Export, and it should open a dialog box, and it wants to save in an OBJ. If I just open that drop-down menu, you can see STL is there as well. So we could save as an STL, but our 3D printers will recognize OBJs just as well as STL. Incidentally, they're both triangular mesh files. And I'm going to call it, what we're going to call it, Eagle Fant, I suppose. Eagle Fant 2. That's going to go onto the desktop. And I'm going to press Save. And I'm going to wait for that to finish there. And now we've got that. I'm not going to close Meshmixer. In fact, it might be worth closing. But if you wanted to save this file, then of course you can go to File at the top here and go Save As. And this is different from exporting your model. Exporting your model simply takes your mesh file and saves it, ready to go to a machine or whatever. If we save this as Meshmixer format, it actually saves the document within Meshmixer itself, so you can make further changes. So I'm going to do that as a backup, and I'm going to call him again. Let's call Eaglefant. It is onto the desktop, and I say that's the Meshmixer file itself. So I can close this down now, and the only reason I'm closing it is because it is kind of using a lot of power on my my laptop, and I'd like to bring our model into this area, which is our 3D printer software. So the way we do that, of course, is go to the top left corner where it says File, and there's no import, but there is an open file. I'm going to look on my desktop, and we're looking for Eaglefant. Eaglefant 2, there he is. We open now. Should take a bit of time. And you can see Eaglefant 2 is quite small. And at this point, we can choose to scale up and down as well using the Cura software. So what I'm going to do is select our model and have a look on the left-hand side, and we've got some tools here. The first one is, or rather the one down here is scale, the second one down. We can simply put a size in there, or we can just put 150, let's say, there on the top. That's 150%. And it's just made it a little bit bigger. Okay, and if you wanted to see it while it's printing, you could always rotate it. So we can highlight it again, and the next one down is a rotate. So we can, I think, grab it here and turn it round within our software. Now, when we print this, we are going to need some support materials, I think. Because the wings themselves, if it's trying to print out, the wings are really thin anyway, and it really does need a kind of support structure underneath. So I'm going to actually add the support structure to the list of things I want this to do. And as we kind of look on the left-hand side here and we come down, there's a support here, generate support. If I click an arrow there, it's actually going to put support under the whole model. Let's actually do it with and without support. I'll take it out first. And I don't want to just prepare this model. I want to preview it so you can see what's happening. So I'm going to click on preview. And at the bottom here, you can see the word slice in blue. I'm going to left click. What it's going to do, of course, is take our model and slice it into many, many different layers. And that's the layers that the 3D printer will actually choose to print at. We know it's working there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit now, and we can see our model. Zoom up a bit now. This looks complicated, but it's really simple. All it's done is it's split it in 847 different layers. I can see that because there's a slider on the right-hand side. So if I kind of grab that slider and bring it down, you can see now I'll go all the way down. If we move down that way, you can see the structure, and you can see I've set this interior to be about 20%. I normally put 20%. Let's have a look. You can see infill here set at 20. I can make that 100 and it'd be solid. But as we go down now, we can see the outside layer, and we can see the kind of starting point here, which is 4 points with the extra little bit of flat there to stick it to the base, let's say. So that's our kind of layers there. Also, there are difficulties here because you can got one leg is further down than the other. So we do need support on this. We need support under those legs to actually make it touch. Otherwise, there's going to be a gap there. So I can see straight away that there are some issues. But as we're building up, I can see the wall thickness. I can see how this is going to be built. And to me, this looks good so far. Everything looks fine there. I want a kind of close look now at the wings as the wings are being created. So I'm kind of just going to move around, take this up now, and I'm visually looking at how the wings are being constructed here. And I can see that looks pretty good to me. It's got an exterior, and it's even got some infill inside there. So I think that's going to be okay as it builds up. Yeah. So to me, that will 3D print. However, I do think that it's going to need a bit of support. So I'm just going to take that back up, and I'm going to make a change. I'm going to go back down here and generate support. If I left click on that, it changes the whole build file. So it's asking me immediately that I've chosen to support it to start again. And the bottom here, it's got slice. So I'm going to left click on the word slice, and it's processing that now. But this time it's going to add support material from the bottom right to the top. It's going to take a little bit longer as well, but hopefully it should sort itself out. A lot of processing going on. And again, it's a good idea to shut everything down while I'm doing this. Otherwise, it can completely crash the machine. Now, this looks awful, but bear in mind that we've got machines that we can select the support material to either be the same, and what you do is you just break it off. But with those wings being so delicate, we can choose to print the support material in PVA rather than PLA. Well, normally we use PLA plastics, PVA, of course, you'll recognize as like a glue, and that's water soluble. So our supports can be water soluble. You can just wash it and they'll just wash off completely. But here, as we look in now, as we bring down our kind of build, you can see the way that it's going to be built now. From the bottom, okay, it's going to build a raft all the way around everything here. One of the legs is already there as we scroll in. And as we go up from there, you can see the support material from the bottom, and it's the start of the legs there. And as it builds up now, you can see support material coming up with the model. So I'm going to stop about the same time as last time. There's the body there as we turn around. There's our body. And just to prove that this is not a collection of things just thrown together, this is one continuous model. Even though we've actually cut bits off and added bits, as we kind of look around, trying to find the join to the head. So I'm just going to come in, move this along here, and we'll bring this up and you can see what I mean. So you've got an outer skin here, and you've also got an inner kind of structure. As we go up now, you can see that the outer skin changes. There's the beak, and becomes just here a complete model without the kind of interactions between the two. It's easy sometimes within CAD to push two things together and just join them, and what you've got is the back end of one and the back end of another, and it's not actually a like a professionally put together model. What we've got with Meshmixer is the ability to make this into one perfect watertight model. So I'm going to take this up now to finish that. Okay. And there's our model. And all we've got to do now is save this file and send it to our 3D printer. It's as simple as that. And as I say, these things, when you look at demonstrations online, they seem to be quite playful. They seem to be quite, how can I put this, hobbyist. But for art, in terms of making, I can actually print this and then invest it, melt it out and cast it in metal, or I can cast it in glass. Anything that could be cast using lost wax casting, we could use this material rather than the wax. I just think it's one of the most exciting developments in combining new technologies with the traditional processes that we have within the college. I'm a glassmaker myself, so I kind of just see that kind of possibility straight away. I think that's it for that. I just want to show you perhaps one image, if I can get to it easily at the bottom here. Here we go. Just wanted to show you that. And this is, it looks like a photograph, but it's actually a Statue of Liberty with an eagle and the same eagle wings we've just seen there. And I've brought it into render. So it doesn't have to be the outcome 3D printed. It could be just a visual, but we've used three-dimensional models to do it. And this is collage in a very real sense, but it's three-dimensional collage, which could look very, very realistic, depending on where we choose to put it and what we choose to do with it. So it's just something I wanted to show as well.